Hey, my name is Bailey Weiser. I'm the owner of Ellie Photography, a North Georgia newborn and family photography studio, and welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to talk about hiring a studio assistant, or how to know that it's time to add someone onto your team as a photographer. Kicking off a new year, I know a lot of people are asking the question about growth this year and kind of looking into possibly adding someone onto their team or to hiring a VA or an in-person assistant. So this video is going to walk you through some questions to ask before you start the hiring process, a checklist of some things that you need to be doing beforehand, and then kind of walk you through my hiring process and what it looks like to have a studio assistant. So let's dive in. So today we are actually on our second annual workcation retreat. This is my studio assistant, Ellie. She's been with Hello Jude for almost 3 years, April. And this is the second time we've done this. We basically spend a couple days away from our families and get a chance to refocus, have some rest, have some clarity and some vision and goal planning and dreaming and just some work sessions. So we decided what better way to start off YouTube this year than with a video with both of us and kind of talk about what it looks like to hire, what the hiring process kind of entails, and how to know that you are ready to add on an assistant. So we're going to kind of just have like a little conversation, pull up a chair, and we're going to dive in. So the first question is how to know that it's time to hire. It's a great question because I've been through seasons in my business where I thought I was ready and I started the process, got really deep into having people on a team, and then realized that I was not ready. And it's a hard thing to admit. It's a hard thing to go through. And so kind of having this question gauge is going to help you know that it's a good time to hire. The first thing is that you can consistently pay yourself and that you can pay them. And so if you're not making a consistent income, if your bookings aren't consistent, don't hire someone that you're gonna have to pay if you can't even pay yourself consistently. My rule of thumb is to have at least 3 months of your income saved into your savings account, your business savings account, as kind of a cushion, both your 3 month and what you would pay someone for 3 months. So say that we go through another pandemic or something happens and you don't have business for 3 months, you're at least guaranteed to have consistent income or something that you could pay yourself and your assistant for 90 days. That's very important. A second thing is to recognize that there's more to-dos on your plate than you can personally accomplish, and that things are starting to fall through the cracks. So if emails are not getting responded to in a timely manner, if you're forgetting to send contracts out, if client communication is suffering, if you're taking more time editing than you would like to, these are just some things to think about, and they might be some flags for you to start thinking about hiring. Another one is that your bookings are pretty consistent, enough consistency to guarantee that your business is growing and that it's time to scale and go to the next level. If you're not getting consistent booking, if you're having months at a time where you're not having a single inquiry or a single session, probably not a great time to focus energy on hiring. It'd be a great time to refocus your energy on asking what's not working in your business and to hone in on that instead of bringing someone else in that you're going to have to train and spend your energy on that. The last one, you know that you want to add something to your business, but you just don't have the capacity to do it. Maybe you are wanting to start a YouTube channel, or maybe you're wanting to create a course or add a new kind of session offering, start a client wardrobe, any of those things. And you have dreams and goals of doing that, but you can't quite make it happen because you just don't have any capacity on your plate to add something else. This kind of goes back to point 2 where you recognize that there's more things on your to-do list this is more things on your dreaming list, and you've got the passion to do it. You just don't have the time to do it. And so hiring someone that can take some things off your plate is really helpful. So January of 2021. Yes. Okay. So January of 2021, I started the new year and I thought, I need to hire someone. I had just found out I was pregnant with our 4th child. And that to me was another one of those checkpoints. Like, life is about to get crazy. My plate's about to become even more full. And I just knew that I needed some help. And so without letting people know that was one of the big reasons why I was hiring, I put just a post out on social media and on my email list and said, hey, I'm looking for a studio assistant. And a friend sent that to you. Yep. And so basically what that was, it had a job description, it had kind of some ideas of some things that would be responsibilities, kind of an outline of possible hours. And I don't think that I had like a definitive pay. I think I had like a starting at wage on there.
And it was a range.
Yeah. And it depended on experience and kind of based off of interviews, what I could think capabilities might be, if there would be more of a photography aspect or editing or an admin aspect. I knew that I needed some help, and I had a list of different things that I could only do and things that I was willing to kind of release a little bit of control on. And so that's how the process started. I had that online application. I had a deadline. So be very clear, if you're going to have an application online, that there is a specific deadline. Give it 10 days or 14 days with the application open. And then after that application process and that deadline was met, I reviewed all the applications and I called references for like my top 4 or 5. You were obviously on the top 4 or 5. And then we had a phone interview. Do you remember anything at all about, I know it's been 3 years now, but.
Oh man, yeah, that's tough. I do remember, pacing in our bedroom during that phone call.
Are you a phone walker?
I am a phone walker, yes, for sure. So I remember talking about my previous experience. I remember you talking about your previous experience having hired people before. Having people as part of your business, maybe not technically hiring. So talking about both of our previous experience, I remember you asking me about kind of my goals and why I was interested in the photography industry as a whole. So I remember telling you about my interest in like weddings and stuff like that. Even though at the time you were phasing out of weddings. So that's about all I remember though.
Okay. That's a good memory though for 3 years, because that's more than
It meant a lot. It made a big impact on me.
So after that phone call interview, we had an in-person interview. And I remember where I was sitting in the house.
Yeah.
But that's about all I remember. I do remember telling you that I was pregnant.
I remember
and that's why I was hiring.
Yes. I remember Presley, your dog, being very attentive to me and wanting me to pet him all the time.
Yes, I could agree to that.
Yeah.
But we had an in-person interview. That kind of was the next step. I truly believe that there is power in being slow to hire and quick to fire. And Dave Ramsey has a book called Entree Leadership that talks about that. I've taken Nancy Ray's hiring course or team building course, and she also referenced that. And so I think having a fairly lengthy hiring process can only help you as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. It can seem a little ridiculous. My husband thought it was a little bit ridiculous when I told him that I was going through this process with all of these people. But I knew, one, I was giving up a big part of my business. And when you own a business that is either your name or your face highly attached to it, there's a lot that goes into that, and a lot of pressure that you're hiring someone that's going to represent you well, and that is going to be a good fit. And so during this interview process, I was looking less about experience. That obviously had a handle on things. If they had any experience in sales or client communication, anything like that, if they had any job experience working with other people, like that was a great bonus. But more than that, I was looking at how I connected with them, and if we had anything that we could relate on, if conversations came naturally. I would much rather hire someone that I had to train from the ground up, that I thought was a good person and I connected with, than hiring someone that had the best resume in the world but just would not have been a good fit to work side by side with me or to serve my clients. And so even though you had zero photography experience, I matched and meshed really well with you, and I feel like that was why you made it to the next level. And that next level was a dinner with our spouses and my kids. And this is probably one of the most pivotal parts in the interview process for me, because people are really good at faking it in a phone call or just sitting down for coffee. But when you invite someone else's husband or significant other into the room, it really tells you a lot about that person, what they value. Like if you got a weirdo husband, that's a red flag.
It's harder to hide when you're together.
Much harder to hide. And tone of voice can change depending on who you're with. So your spouse can bring the best and the worst out of you. And I feel like that's a great, and same with kids. Like if someone has children during the interview process, it's very quickly I probably would not be hired because I'm really quick to get on to my kids. But it's very easy to tell someone's personality based on how they respond to people that they love. And then we had dinner, we played a game, which I don't think that weighed so much on the hiring process as just like getting to know, having fun. But that could also be a really good tell. It
does provide an interesting aspect. You see a different side of someone when you play a game with them, especially when it's a competitive game.
Yes.
So. Yeah,
absolutely. I would 100% agree. So after we went through that entire process, and I told you this a little bit ago, but you were not initially my number one pick. And
so sad.
I know, and I feel bad telling you that, but
don't feel bad at all.
You were not. You were my number two pick. But the girl who I was initially really interested in, I feel like her and I conversation came a lot more naturally. She had just had a baby, so I think there was more to relate on, whereas you guys didn't have children yet. And so that was one of the factors that I was like, maybe we just have more that is in common.
Did she have photography experience too?
I don't think she did.
Okay.
I think she had design experience, if I'm remembering correctly. Like I think she had previously worked for a marketing company, but that to me, like I said, that is important, but it weighs less than just like meshing well with someone.
And I had more of the administrative side of experience.
And so both of them I needed help with. And so to me it was like, if I get one of those things, like that is a huge burden off my plate. And so when I ended up calling you to hire you, that was, I think, the end of February or beginning, no, not February, March. Because you started the 1st of April. That was your first day. And
that's funny.
So I remember like a 3-month process.
I remember like most of the interviews. I do not remember that phone call at all.
Really?
No, I don't.
I remember being nervous that you were going to tell me that you had changed your mind, that you didn't want the position anymore.
Yeah, I don't remember where I was, so that really helps me.
I'm sure I was pacing at home.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it being a long conversation. I just remember like, hey, I'm interested in you taking the job if you're still interested. I'll send you details about when to start. Like, I think that was pretty much like the extent of the conversation. I don't think we talked for long. But then after that, you had your first day, and we had set up like this 90-day trial period. For both of us. One, to make sure that we meshed well together in that work
Yeah.
environment. But also that if it wasn't working for either one of us, we could be like, it's not working, and cut our losses and move on.
Yeah, which initially that like 90-day trial period sounded kind of intimidating to me.
Yeah.
But then it was really helpful that you explained it, that it was like, it's also a protection for me too.
Yeah.
As the new hire, that if it's also not working for me, then that's an out.
Like if you get in and you realize like this is not the work that I want to be doing, then we can cut our ties and it not be dramatic or and so you had that 90-day trial period. I also made you sign a contract.
Yep.
In that contract there was things about not disclosing client information, about logging hours. There was also something in there about a non-compete disclosure. So if you decide to leave and start another photography business, that there was information about how that would work, and how you would market and where you would be able to serve. And not so much because that I'm fearful, like that I'm just raising competitors, but also like I poured a bunch of my time and effort into training you. You now know all of my systems.
Yeah.
You know my client process. You know a lot of my clients. And just from interacting with them, it could be very quickly for someone to just like take your business, rename it, and run. And I think that's one fear that a lot of photographers have when it comes to hiring is, if I hire someone and I teach them everything and they fall in love with photography and then they leave and they're my competitor. And so I think having a non-compete clause of some sort, however you want to define it, is a healthy boundary to have in a contract.
Yeah.
So after that, or do you remember when you started what some of the tasks or like responsibilities you had were?
Ooh,
it's been a hot minute.
Yes. I don't think we started your blogs back up yet. So
No,
I don't
think
I
that.
was doing blogs. I do think I started on Pinterest pretty early.
Okay.
Oh, I do not remember, actually.
I think I had trained you on Dubsado. Or did I not train you on Dubsado early on?
Right away.
Okay.
Nope.
One thing that we were talking about earlier is that I'm slowly getting over it because, 3 years is a long time to build trust with someone. But, like, I'm very clenched fist in my business.
Yeah.
Like, it's my baby, one of.
Totally.
And so, like, slowly, like, relinquishing control on things.
It's just
has
like
been hard.
One thing at a time.
One thing. And we're getting better at it. Or I am, at least. But I remember little things like steaming client wardrobe.
Oh yeah, I did a lot of that.
You did a lot of
for
steaming.
Sure. Yeah.
Like that was a big thing. Cataloging. Anytime we had new dresses, you would help me change out them and catalog those and do all that stuff.
Yep.
And
taking photos of them. Yeah.
Yep. I think that I gave you like anytime that I had sessions completed and I needed emails sent like for reviews or things like that, I think I gave you some freedom in my inbox. Not much.
Yeah.
Like templated freedom.
Right. Yep. Templated
freedom.
Definitely.
And I think at that time, like packaging gifts and stuff like that, you were doing too.
Yep.
Because that was something that I'm like, she can do post office runs. You did a lot of post office runs.
Yeah. That's true.
And so during that first year period, we had that 90-day evaluation meeting. We also had a 6-month and then a 12-month where I think 6 months we went out to coffee.
Yep.
We went to Grains of Grace.
Yep.
And then 12 months, I don't know if we did it in studio or if we went somewhere. I can't even remember now.
I'm pretty sure it was in studio.
And so we just had a conversation about what's working, what's not working. Is there anything that you're working on that you don't enjoy doing? Is there anything you'd like to try or like to learn? And then for me, it was, okay, now that I've seen that I can trust you with X, Y, and Z, we're going to add a little bit more if you want it. And so, I mean, your role as a whole over the last 3 years has evolved quite a bit.
Yeah.
There are some of those things that you started off with that you are still doing.
Yeah. It's almost like I started off with those things, and it's like I'm still doing those, but in a much more comprehensive way.
Well, and you've learned the systems. You have actually gone in and recognized areas that needed improvement and taken ownership of that, like client workflows, and saying like, this would be so much easier if we streamlined it by doing this. And I had no time or capacity or desire to learn how to do that. And so I'm just like, great, you take care of figuring that out. And so you've actually done a lot on the back end of things to help make things run a lot smoother, both for your benefit and for Hello Jude, my benefit, and clients' benefit. That's been a huge thing. And then just adding on other responsibilities, like we started blogging back up. So a lot of the like content creation that we do, you have your eyes on a lot of things. You do a lot of the graphics and pins and email newsletters. And so aside from like pushing the button on a camera and editing, there's not many things in the business that you don't touch now. A lot of it you've got your eyes on, or I may have you work on things here and there. And so it's been really cool to see that process evolve. And then when year 2 came, we had a 6-month evaluation and a 12-month evaluation. Kind of the same thing. Had opportunity for growth, opportunity for more hours. During year 2, you had a baby.
Yes.
And so that changed pretty dramatically for you.
It did.
And what hours look like, and what things you were doing in studio versus now having an element to your responsibilities that's remote.
Yes.
And so you have studio hours, and then you have work from home hours. And I recognize there's some things that can only be done in the studio, but there's a handful of things that you can
there's
do
quite
from
a bit
anywhere.
Pinterest,
emails, Dubsado, all of those things can be done remotely. And so it's to both of our benefits, because there's a lot of freedom and flexibility. And you can still be a mom and take care of Sophia. And so I feel like that's a huge element. Just recognizing that seasons change with your employees. And you had a maternity leave that was 4 months, October, November, December, 3 months.
Well, it was the very end of, so it was 3. The very end of October. And then my first time back was our vision trip. And that was at the very beginning of January.
Okay. So a full 3 months off, where I had to realize how much work you were doing for me. And a lot of things fell back through the cracks because that was busy season.
And we spent a lot of time prepping for that too.
We did.
Like, we tried to get all the blogs done for those months that I would be gone.
And I think we did most of that. I think the things that fell through the cracks for me were like just the admin side of things. Like, I've got to send a session reminder, and I've got to, and all the things that you were doing for me. It made me appreciate you more, because at the end of the day, I was like, oh my gosh, these are things that I've not had to think about for almost 2 years. And that changed. And so, you had maternity leave, you came back. Things looked a little bit differently now because we had another person in the studio with us.
Which I'm hugely thankful for.
It worked out.
So nice being, it's a wonderful blessing being able to be so flexible and come in with her and work at home and stuff.
That's one great thing about being a mom and having a creative business. And then this year we had another big change with the studio moving.
Oh my.
And so your role changed a little bit during that time too, because
I got to get my hands dirty.
Instead of sending emails, you were hanging sheetrock.
And attempting.
And so you've kind of been like this, I I don't even know the word. Like you've evolved quite a bit in what you're able to do and what you have done. You've recognized areas and things that you're really good at and things that you're like, this does not give me life.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to do this.
Yeah. Or a big one is like, I'm not efficient in this at all. Like it's going to take me like twice as long for me to do this as it would for you to do it. So,
and I think recognizing that is beneficial for both of us because the business is saving money by not paying you 3 times the hours.
Yes.
But also, like, from a leadership standpoint, I don't want to drain you from the joy of what you're doing. I don't want to burn you out. I don't want to cause any tension or any issues. And so far, knock on wood, 3 years, year to date, you and I have had no issues that I know of, unless you've had any issues with me.
No.
But I feel like anytime that there's been something that I thought I would have done this differently, or I mean, I feel like I've been pretty quick to tell you.
Yeah.
Or
and the
giving
evaluations
suggestions.
help. The evaluations help a lot.
Yeah, and I think just having like open conversation. Like yesterday, we went through a questionnaire. Like I'm reading the book called Traction, and we're kind of implementing some of that this year. And so in the beginning, there's an organizational questionnaire about how your business is operating. And I filled it out, and then I asked the questions to Ellie, and I said, okay, where would you scale us?
Yeah.
And I think there's a little bit of like, I don't want to say the wrong answer, but I also trust you, and I know that your opinion matters. And we were pretty darn spot on. There were 2 things that we differed on a little bit. But for the most part, like we both have clear vision, direction, goals for the business. And I think when you share a common goal and everyone's on board, it just makes things run a lot smoother.
Completely.
And a more clear understanding of what everyone's responsibilities are and accountability.
Yeah.
And although obviously my position's a little bit higher than yours,
just a little,
and the responsibilities are a little bit higher on me, I feel like you have been very graceful in the way that you've said things to me about areas that I may have dropped the ball on, like blogging. Or on the flip side, really encouraging when things are going extremely well, or you see something you like, or you see something that was a struggle and I finished it, or you know, like I just feel like you've been really encouraging for me on the flip side as a leader to just have that relationship has been really fun. So every year we have a time where we define and redefine responsibilities. Generally we do that at the beginning of the year because it's a great time to do that. But that first year we did that during those meetings.
Yeah.
So how would you say that redefining responsibilities has changed your passion for the business, your like the way that you work, anything about that?
Yeah. I think it really does give just a freshness to what you're doing. When you evaluate my roles and responsibilities that I have been doing, how I can improve them, what I can do differently, what isn't working. It helps me know that you care and like that it even matters that I feel like things are going well or things aren't going well, or that you have the confidence in me to even do them well. But I feel like those evaluations and these vision trips at the beginning of the year, they really do have a way of refocusing me on the business and giving me a little bit of like lighting the fire in me to do a better job, do a more comprehensive job, more thorough job, and how I can do those better.
Right. And to get excited about what we're doing too.
Yeah, it really does bring another level of excitement every single time. It really does.
And I feel like every time we do one of these trips, one of the big things we talk about and we think about is what are big things we want to do this year?
Yeah.
What has gone well? What has not gone well? What is draining? What is life-giving? And then adjust based on those things. If there's something that we have seen is not working, like this is the time to evaluate, to run the numbers, to have discussions, and then to like cut them out or redefine them. So yeah, I agree. I think that these trips are great for us just to have some bonding time, but also to create a vision and like a core goal for what we're both accomplishing and how we can help each other in doing that.
Yeah. And rather than like the year changing and being like, oh, all right, here comes another year just doing the same thing. It's like, no, we got goals.
We got
like,
a fresh
let's go
start.
Get them.
Yeah.
I love that.
Love it. So just as a business, there's definitely different options when it comes to hiring. We've got, in-person assistants. We've got like just specific roles. Like I know photographer friends that have hired someone specifically for wardrobe consultations or for bookkeeping or, a specific niche area that they need help with. And so your role is kind of a umbrella of sorts where you kind of have responsibilities in a lot of different areas instead of just one focused area. So that's an option for hiring. Another option, like I said, was just defining a specific need, outsourcing editing, things like that. Then there's also the question of, do I hire remote? Do I hire in person? Do I hire a VA? Like, what do all those things look like? Do I hire an intern? And so you and I had a conversation a little bit ago about just my experience with some of the things that I've done and what's worked and what hasn't worked. And I think it's differently for every person. But specifically for me, understanding that hiring an intern seems really exciting. And it may be a great fit for a business, but there's a very distinct difference between an intern and a hired assistant. And the difference being an intern is hired or brought onto a team, whether it's paid or unpaid, with the intent to teach. And their mind is learn and leave. Learn and leave.
Learn, leave, and try to do it.
And try and do it myself. And whereas a position where you come and hire someone on for your business, maybe with little or no photography experience, the goal for that is to train. Train and teach.
The expectation
they
is
can be
to
different.
Work.
Yeah. Train to work versus teach to leave.
Yes.
And so internships can be great because it can really benefit you as a photographer to get extra hands in photography. I have people that reach out every year from a local college that has a photography program looking for internships that I graciously turned down because I've done the intern thing. I had 5, 6, 7. I've had 8 interns over the course of the last 8 years. And my problem was when I was bringing them on, not having clear vision, not really being in a position where I could give them responsibility or wanted to give them responsibility.
To even do any work for you.
And I didn't go through the distinct hiring process with all of the things. I put an application out there, and then if people's schedules were available, I was like, I'll take everyone. And so like at one point I had 5 interns that I was trying to juggle while being a mom. I was pregnant with Knox. So I had Jude, who was 2, or he was almost 2. Was about to have Knox. Had 5 interns. I had a photography business who was not even to a place where I should have had 1 intern, much less 5, and was learning a lot. And so I was actually learning my business along with my interns. I was learning photography along with my interns, which was a unique situation.
Yeah.
But I don't think that I brought anything to the table that benefited them much. And so I think having an intern can be great. But if hiring an intern for you is under the expectation that you're going to get a lot of the things on your plate off your plate, it's probably not.
Yeah.
Because in an intern's mind, just the title of an internship is one where you're learning, and usually not intending to stay long term.
Yeah.
Or it's a required internship for school.
Right.
Or, so that's kind of the difference between interns and hired work. Another question is, should I hire a VA? VAs can also be great, depending on the work that you're needing done. If it's something that you don't need someone hands-on for, VA work can be great. If it's just, proofreading blogs or sending out email lists or, setting up workflows or things like that, a VA can be a great help. The only issue that I've seen working personally with VAs is they don't know your business like you know your business. And so again, it probably comes down to the hiring process and not just hiring the first VA that you find that fits your budget, but actually making sure that you connect with your VA, that they're asking all the right questions, trying to get to know you, get to know your business, and understand and buy into what you're doing, instead of just being like a robot that's doing your to-do list.
Yeah.
Very distinct difference in a VA versus a hired,
whether
it's a hired remote or hired in-person employee, because VAs work for multiple people.
Yeah.
And their hired role is to be a task manager that completes to-dos.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it can come without a lot of buy-in, thoughtful intention.
Yeah.
All those things.
Yeah.
Now, and it depends on what the tasks are. Like, I think VAs are great. And if your tasks are, I need to proofread this, like, they are great for that, because they don't need much buy-in. They just need to proofread.
Right.
Or, I've got to schedule, like, I have all the content, I just need to have it scheduled. Great. Like, that's a great role for a VA. But when it comes to, like, actually creating things for your business, sometimes it's much better to have someone who is passionate about the vision behind your business and can buy into that.
Yeah. And a lot of the work that I do remotely is, VA type work, but it's the experience that I have working in studio that gives me the vision and the knowledge and the passion to do what I do remotely.
And I think just having worked with me for as long as you have, not only do you have that, but you have fully understood and adopted the brand message, the brand voice. Yeah. Like, I can have you write emails to clients now and trust that what you're saying is something that I would say, or that what you're saying is helpful and beneficial to my clients and isn't just like a quick one response. Which is really important when you are giving someone trust in your inbox, and they're communicating with the people that hired you.
Yeah. And using your name literally, like, they're, for actually most of the time.
Yeah, until this past couple months.
Yeah, I was signing it from you in your email. And it's like, I have my own email signature now, but when I was sending emails from you, it's like, you want that to be... You want it to sound like you.
You want it to sound like you. You want it to be helpful. All of those things. And I think one great thing that you've contributed to is just, like, I get client reviews quite a bit, but your feedback has been really helpful. And just the way that you create ideas, you troubleshoot, you problem solve. You're like an extra set of eyes on my business. You see what's working, what's not working. And obviously there is a level of trust that we've built. Now, had you come in month one and started telling me how to change my business, I may have not taken that so well. but I feel like we've built this relationship where I can take what you say and recognize it and then implement the changes or try and figure out how to problem solve, all those things. That has come with time. Obviously, we're almost 3 years in. But I just love having you on my team. And I think that having you part of Hello Jude has been a huge contributing factor to the growth, to me being able to start new things, try new things, try things and fail at them, but also like still have a business that's running and not get caught up on, okay, well, this didn't work.
Well, and it's like, it's not even like, oh, that didn't work, you fail. Like, from my perspective, it's like, oh, sorry, stinks for you, that didn't work. It's like, no, now it's like, oh, like, what could I have done better to make it work? Like, that's also a failure on my part, too.
There's been a handful of things that I have tried over the last 3 years that were pretty big flops. But had I not hired you, I would not have tried them. Or I would have tried them, and during the process of trying to make it happen, have pushed all of the important, seemingly mundane but extremely important tasks of the business aside. And so, like, for example, the HJ shop, that was just a great idea.
Yeah,
just didn't work. And it's fine. And that's the great thing about being an entrepreneur is you can try things, you can troubleshoot, you could try them again, or you can say, like, this just wasn't great. So we're just going to shut it down. But had I not had you on the team, I couldn't have even explored that option, whether it was a success or a failure. Starting YouTube. Another thing. It's been really fun for me, but if I had to spend more hours doing the things that you do and not having you, I would not have any time to be devoted to this. So there are definitely great benefits from an entrepreneurial standpoint to release some control to hired help so that you can remain creative, you can avoid burnout, you can try new things while still having a well-oiled machine running day in and day out. So anyways, this has been fun. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions about the hiring process, about what it looks like to hire a studio manager, the interview process, anything like that, feel free to leave them below in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.